Hey there! Today I thought we would do something new. I get a lot of questions. But I mean a lot of questions. So on any given day I can receive between 10 and 40 YouTube comments that require answering. Anything between 1 and 10 Twitter messages, tweets. Now there's Instagram, various comments a day, people send me direct emails, sometimes up to 5 or 6 a day, and I get Facebook messages. So I'm not complaining, but that's a lot of stuff to respond to. So I thought what I would do is collect some of the questions that I think are interesting, relevant, that may have some general purpose, and just dedicate videos to that. So what I want to try to do in 2016 is try and upload one of these question videos a week in which I collect a bunch of these questions. Alright, and I'll try to do timestamps so you can actually see what I'm doing, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I'm aware of the fact that Brian Goulet does the same thing, and I think Brian Goulet does the same thing because of the same reasons, namely it takes a lot of time to answer all this stuff. So trying to do this in a video format, that's I think a very efficient way to deal with it. Okay, now what I have here, I'm just grabbing my the questions I have for today. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's start with the first one. Now I'm also going to give you some meta comments, alright? Some comments on the questions, and if you want an answer from me, how you could ideally pose a question, because some of the questions I get are a little under-specified. Okay, this is not one of them. Ace Ayush asks a very good question. Well, I cleaned my All-Star using the water and converter, and to be honest, it is writing worse than before. It has become too dry and writes in a light blue rather than a nice darker shade. The problem is often solved if I dip the feed in ink, but only for a short time. What should I do? Well, Ace, I think the following is going on. If you flush a pen with water using the converter or piston or whatever pen you have, you really have to let it dry. I typically, when I clean a pen, I let it dry for a full night. The reason being that if there is any water left either in the converter or in the feed, remember the feed has very fine channels, so you don't necessarily see a lot of water in there. If there is water in that, then any ink will be diluted, and that's just the way it is. Now the simple solution, there's two solutions. One is to completely disassemble the pen and really dry everything, and sometimes I do that. With the Lamy Safari you can pull out the feed, you have to be careful how to put it back in, but I think I have a disassembly line video on that. But you can do that. You can disassemble everything, you really dry everything with a tissue or kitchen towel or whatever, and make sure that everything is completely dry, including both sides of the feed. Alright? But sometimes that's a little difficult. If you have a piston filler, for example, and you cannot disassemble everything, or it's very hard to disassemble something without the proper tools, then it can be easier to just let it dry. Now one trick that I sometimes use is I put just a tissue down, and I lean the pen against something and put the nib on the tissue, and then any water is slowly drained out. But I mean, that will not take 5 minutes, that can take hours. So that's what I would do first. If that doesn't work, because you say it's writing worse than before, that suggests that the pen did write fine at some point, when you got it. So I think then it probably wasn't wet, and I think that's what's causing this. Okay, next question is from Clay Hudson. Now these next the next 3 questions all come down to the same thing. And that's why I wanted to go through all 3 of these, alright? This is a type of question that I get a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean at least once a week, often multiple times a week, and dozens of times a year, alright? Clay Hudson asks, I have a Lamy Safari and I am getting a Jinhao X750, and I was wondering if there is a good fountain pen under $50 that would be a good next pen. The short answer is yes. There is. The slightly longer answer is yes, but what are you looking for? When you pose a question like this, please provide me with as much information as you can. I can recommend a large number of pens under the $50 mark, but it depends on what you're going to use it for. And what I mean by that is I need the following information. What brands are you looking at? How much are you willing to spend? That's covered here. What nib do you want? Extra fine or double broad? Those are two very different things. What are you going to use the pen for? Where are you going to use the pen? What pen material do you like? What filling system do you have your eye on? All of those things are relevant, right? This is the same as asking, I want to buy a car. What should I get? Are you going to use it off-road? Are you going to use it in a city? What's the purpose, all right? Now, looking at the pens that you mentioned, a Lamy Safari and a Jinhao X750, those are pens at the startup level, right? These are entry-level pens. So for $50, I would say, why don't you have a look at the Italics pens from Mr. Pen. Some of them are over the $50 mark, but I think the Parsons Essential is a pen that is around that price, and that's a very nice pen. And the nice thing about that pen is that it has a lot of nib options, way more than most manufacturers offer. So you can pick cursive italics, obliques, etc. And you can really try to pick something that you will not easily get on other pens at that price point. So I think that is something to really check out. And then you get a well-made pen that looks nice, I think, and it has a converter supplied, so you have all you need, and it's still a steel nib pen. And I think that would be a nice step up from, say, a Safari or a Jinhao. The next question is from Susan Shaw, and Susan asks, I'm looking to buy my first fountain pen. Which would you recommend between the Lamy Joy and the Lamy Safari, please? Thanks. Same thing. What are you going to use it for? The Lamy Joy is a calligraphy pen. The Lamy Safari is a regular round-tipped fountain pen. If you're going to do calligraphy, get the Joy. If you're going to do normal writing, get the Safari. If you want to do something in between, for example, work on your handwriting, the Joy set is not a bad choice because it has a couple of italic nibs. I think it's 1.1, 1.5, and 1.9 millimeters, but those are italic nibs. The 1.9 millimeter nib will be difficult to use for everyday writing unless you have really large handwriting. But those are specialty nibs, right? So again, a car analogy, do you want to buy, I mean, this is kind of asking, do you want a Formula 1 car, or should I buy a simple, whatever, a Ford or something? Both are good cars, but a Lamy Joy has a very specific purpose, namely calligraphy, just like a Formula 1 car is typically not used to do your groceries, right? So it really depends on the purpose. If you want to use your fountain pen for normal everyday writing, then I think your Safari should serve you very, very well. If you want to work on your handwriting, want to do calligraphy, then get the Lamy Joy. Okay, the next question is from James Ashton. This was through Facebook. The other ones were all through YouTube. James asks, hello, I was wondering if you could help me answer a few questions. First, my 18th birthday is coming up. Congratulations. And I'm wanting to get a fountain pen. At the moment I have a Lamy Safari, but I was thinking of upgrading. A pen up to 100 to 120 pounds. I was just unsure as there are so many different brands and such a wide variety of pens. Could you guide me on a few brands and pens, please? Same thing. What are you going to use it for? What are your preferences? Do you want a gold nib? Do you want a steel nib? What filling system are you interested in? What finish are you interested in? Do you have a preference for a brand? All of those questions matter, right? 100 to 120 pounds gives you quite a nice range to work with. I don't have any idea about your preferences, except that you currently have a Lamy Safari. I don't know if you like that pen, but here's what I would say. If you're in that price range, why don't you try a Faber-Castell E-Motion? E-Motion is a metal pen. Looks interesting. I know the looks are not for everyone, but check it out all the same. It has a steel nib, but it has one of the smoothest steel nibs I have ever used. Not the black stealth version, but the regular metal or metal and wood versions. I think that's in your price range, and those are very, very pleasant pens. But again, give me as much details as you can, because I'm kind of going out on a limb here. Secondly, at 6th form, I'm doing an extended project on calligraphy. I haven't made an official title yet. Would a Pilot Parallel be good for starting to write calligraphy? I already have a dip pen, but found it a bit time consuming to keep dipping it in all the time. Yes, that is very time consuming. Pilot Parallels are excellent pens. I'm very enthusiastic about the Parallels. Real hardcore calligraphers will kind of look down on them and say, nah, it's not, but in fact, I think those are great pens. Yes, a dip pen is the ultimate calligraphy tool, but a parallel is a great pen, and especially when you practice, it's so much easier because you don't have to dip and dip and dip all the time. You can just write straight away, and you can write for usually a couple of pages depending on the width of the nib, of course. So, highly recommended. Finally, some of the ink I've seen, mainly Parker Quink, the ink seems to fade and not be a deep black color. Might be just the pen I had or the paper I was using, I'm not sure. However, if I got a pen brand such as Parker, is there a way of using different types of ink in the fountain pen? Absolutely. All manufacturers want to sell you not just their pens, but their inks. So every pen you buy, be it Parker, Montblanc, whatever, is always going to have some type of statement saying, for the best performance, use Parker or Montblanc or whatever inks. Now, there's two camps of people. There are people who say, no, you should do that because those inks are optimized for those pens. And there are people who say, no, you can use any ink in any brand of pen. I'm in the latter camp. I think it's very simple. Ink is ink. There is higher quality ink and lower quality ink. But ink is ink, and if you use a decent ink, say Waterman, I have very good experience with Montblanc. I don't like Parker Quink so much. I've used their blue and I find it a little washed out. I don't like it so much. But Waterman and Montblanc, honestly, they're hard to go wrong with. I've used a bunch of their inks. I think I have used all of the regular edition Montblanc inks, and I've never had any issues with any of those inks, including the Iron Gall Midnight Blue, which is now no longer really Iron Gall. But all those inks flow well, work well, easily cleaned out, don't stain pens, don't destroy pens, so no problems. Of course, you could think, yeah, but there is a reason those manufacturers say that the inks are optimized for the pens. Yes! The money! They want to make the money. That is why they do this. And I do not see how you would optimize an ink for a specific pen. Maybe there's something with the width of the feed channel on the ink, but I really, really doubt it. And I have used inks in all kinds of brand pens, all kinds of brands of inks. I've never really had issues, except with a few brands, but let's not go into that now. I would say if you use a Waterman ink or a Montblanc ink, and there's others too, but those two brands I would really heartily recommend to use in any type of pen. Diamine is good as well, but those are more boutique inks. Some of them are very highly saturated. If you just want very well behaved inks, use those two brands. Okay, the final question is from Raghuram Marur, who asks, which one among M800 and M1000 is good for daily note-taking? Asking you because you have almost all of the interesting pens in your collection. Well, I'm not sure about that. But which one is good for daily note-taking? Both. That depends. This is again a matter of it depends. I have both pens here. I have an M800, this is the tortoiseshell brown, and I have the M1005, that was the, I think, the limited edition demonstrator. Yeah, both are good for everyday note-taking, but it depends on the size of your hands. One is significantly bigger than the other. So if you have very petite hands, you probably better stick with an M800. And if you have larger hands, then use an M1000. I love the M1000, I think it's great. I don't have that small hands, you know. M800 is great too. I think the M800 is a very nice size because it's big but not super oversized. So just a good size. Both pens are perfect, both pens have nibs that will serve you very, very well. Both pens are very, very high quality. So I'd recommend them both. Check your hand size. I know both of them have brass piston threads and are very durable. Can you tell me which one has the better build quality? I saw a video where you disassembled M800 Tortoise. It was surprising to see plastic piston for M800. Is it plastic or brass painted in black? As far as I know, both of these pens have plastic pistons. I could be wrong. I opened up this one today, the M800. It has a plastic piston. Also no brass threads. It's all plastic, I think. And the Yeah, I'm looking at the M1005 now, but that really looks like plastic to me too. This one clearly has some type of metal, housing there. To be honest, I really don't think it matters that much. It's a piston. If you make sure it stays well lubricated, and that's very easy with a Pelican type pen, because you can just unscrew the nib unit. So take a toothpick, a little bit of silicone grease, carefully jam it in there, swipe it around a bit, twist this back in, and you're done. set up, and the plastic really won't snap because everything is nice and smooth. So I really don't think that's a big deal. And I have read that you have completed your PhD. Congratulations. Yes, I have. Thank you. And one more question. Pelican M1000 versus Montblanc 149 versus Delta Dolcevita Oversize. Which one is your favorite? I know you use all three. If it is difficult to pick one, at least tell me in which order you like them, starting with what you like the most. I like them in that order. I like M1000 best, then the 149, then the Delta Dolcevita Oversize. And let me tell you why. To me, the M1000 size pen is fairly perfect. And it's a little bit longer than a 149, and that's what I like about it. The 149 is mainly fat. It's a very stubby pen. It's like a cigar, and it's very fat. And I think the section of the 149 is on the fattish side. Very good for signatures, short writing, but for longer writing, I think the slightly increased length of the M1000, to me, is more pleasant, and that's why I love that. Nib-wise, both pens will probably blow you out of the water. They're flagship pens. Yes, there can be issues, but I recently used a new 149 perfect nib. I've used new, all the M1000 nibs I've used were new. All worked very, very well. Occasionally, yeah, there's a little bit of an issue with baby's bottoms, the over polishing of the tines, but live with it. I see that in pretty much any manufacturer now, so it's the way it is. You're going to have to tackle that yourself. But especially if you stick with something like medium or fine, then for sure there won't be any issues. And I'm very, very pleased with all of those pens. The Delta Dolcevita Oversize is a gorgeous pen, and look-wise, purely aesthetically speaking, I think the Dolcevita wins. It's better than the M1000. I mean, the clear one is very pretty, but it wins. The orange celluloid, I think, is gorgeous, beautiful. But that pen is enormously thick. It's really, really thick, to a point where I can't even really put my fingers together when I hold it. It's too much. It's beautiful, and especially in eyedropper mode, a very nice, rich ink flow. I love it, but it's really thick. So thick that I don't find it pleasant for longer writing sessions. So, M1000, 149, Dolcevita Oversize. Alright, now that's it then. These were the questions I had for today. I don't want these videos to be too long, especially because I have a tendency to talk a lot. If you have any other questions that you would really like to see answered, feel free, we have this medium now, to post them in the comments below. I can't promise I can answer every question like this, because typically when I do an invitation like this, then there are many questions to answer, but I try to pick questions that are relevant to everyone. Alright? And please do understand that the reason for me to do these videos is not that I don't want to answer questions on YouTube, but if I see questions that, as I said, are more general, are interesting to more people, I'd rather do it here than try and answer the same question a million times in typed comments. Alright? Guys, I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later.